Since my video yesterday, the Mariners have ditched their Sunday cream uniforms and started wearing the Steelhead uniforms for Sundays, as well as a big Eugenio Suarez quote from Jerry Dipoto that all but kills the Eugenio Suarez rumors. So we're going to put those to bed. Welcome to the Dom Skeen channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. We've got the Steelheads cap on. Had to switch out the Sunday cap for the Steelheads cap. Going to be getting that Steelheads fitted. I'm glad that it has, first of all, the MLB logo on the back, the new era flag. It just makes it a little more modern, a little more wearable for 2026. But that's right. The big news of the day. Shout out to Brady Farkas, refused to lose pod, the first one on Twitter, talking about it. The Mariners announced they're making a major uniform switch in 2026 and are ditching the Sunday cream alternate uniforms, out with the old, in with the new, and basically actually out with the new, in with the old, because we're bringing back the Steelheads uniforms. Team was only around for 1 year in 1946, the Negro League team, and the Mariners are going to be wearing them on Sundays now, making a big $500,000 donation every Sunday to, I think this means $500,000 every Sunday. No, a $500,000 commitment to. So I think it's just, maybe it's right now, maybe it's. I thought it was every Sunday for a minute, but I guess they're not going to do $500,000 every Sunday. That would actually be quite a bit. That's half of what Andrew Kinsner is making this year. But anyway, $500,000 commitment to support local black-led baseball and softball organizations and community initiatives. No, that's good. That's awesome. If you haven't seen yet, my podcast with Don Dishes this week, we talked a little bit about that, about how youth, especially black youth, from his perspective, especially as somebody who was in that situation, have gone and played basketball and football for a number of years, but getting back into baseball now a little bit. And the Mariners are making a commitment to help that happen. Now, what else I really wanted to talk about other than this uniform switch? Obviously we don't know how we're going to feel about this, for a whole season until we see it happen. Black and white could get a little bit boring at some points. But I do like, that it says Seattle and that they're wearing them at home in Seattle. They're very simple. On one hand, they're, could get a little bit boring with the color scheme just being black and white. On the other hand, they're very simple and they're a far cry from, a lot of the louder uniforms. And I mean, the best baseball uniforms a lot of the time are the quietest, the most basic, most old school ones. You look at the New York Yankees pinstripes, just super iconic. Some of the other best ones. Really, it's part of the simplicity is part of the charm. And the same goes for the Steelheads unis. You even look at the Yankees and the Red Sox refusing to put the player names on the jerseys. I'm really hoping, and I'm assuming these aren't not going to have names. I know Naylor walked out with it on, so no names on the back of the jerseys. I really like that. It's gonna look old school. We're gonna be doing it all the time. It will take a little bit of the allure away from the turn back the clock day, which is always late May, late June. You have that turn back the clock day, and you end up getting to see the Steelheads or getting to see the 1977 uniform or whatever it is. But we won't see that. Hopefully now we'll get to see like the 1976 uniform, the really old uniforms kind of make their appearances, because now we've got, in the past years we've done our turn back the clock on the Juneteenth holiday and done the Steelhead unis. Hopefully we get to do some other ones as well now that we have this as part of the normal rotation. The Sunday unis were great for the last 10 what has it been, 10 to 12 13 years at this point, but I understand that it's time for a change, especially since they're so similar to the City Connects. Now, the real meat of this video, we got to talk about the Eugenio Suarez quote from Jerry Dipoto, because my last video about Logan Evans having Tommy John surgery, I mentioned, and I showed you guys my roster kind of or my depth chart that I have in the Mariners org, and I showed you guys why Gino just, to me, doesn't fit on this roster. And Jerry Dipoto, as soon as I make that video, not 15 minutes later, I come and see, go on Twitter and I see this quote from Jerry Dipoto on the radio yesterday, which I didn't see before the video. He fits emotionally. What I've said, he's an all-time great clubhouse fit, but that could be problematic in continuing to build our roster. I wouldn't say that's likely at this point. It's problematic in continuing to build our roster. Jerry Dipoto with us now, and the possibility of the Mariners bringing back Eugenio Suarez. It's Dave Softy Mauler. And I'm going to put this thing to bed because it just doesn't fit. He fits emotionally so well, like Jerry said. It's exactly what I've been saying. He just does not fit the ballpark or the roster. We already looked at the depth chart, which quickly, can go back to the depth chart. You see, there's just no space for him on this depth chart. You have to block third base. You have to kill the best DH platoon in baseball this year, right here. Or, you have to, by moving them to right field, or you have to give up on Victor Robles as an everyday player, which I'm not willing to do. Shout out to the people in the comments talking to me about, Luke Raley being part of a platoon there. I think Victor Robles is going to be an everyday player in 2026. I didn't think that would be my boldest take. But, if it is, so be it. Anyway, moving over to the notes, we're going to go look at Geno stats in T-Mobile Park, which I grabbed using Fangraphs applied splits tool. Just look at the home games with Seattle. And you see Geno, in 2022 and 2023, almost identical on the batting average fronts, almost, very similar on the homer fronts. But in 2025, he hit 111 over 120 plate appearances, 29 games, 108 at-bats in T-Mobile Park. Now, I say, 120 plate appearances, that's bordering on, not being quite 150 to be a quarter of a season as an everyday player. And almost, that's how much I want to, for a sample size to normalize. And, and considering, you go look at that, it's like one thing, but you look at his career stats, right? 213 average. He's got a 213 average in 189 games, 780 plate appearances, 672 at-bats at T-Mobile Park. He's still got 34 homers, but, a lot of strikeouts as well. And despite having this 213 average career at T-Mobile Park, he's got a 115 WRC plus, right? So you think, oh, that's great. He's low average, but he's still got, a 115 WRC plus, so we're going to go with that, right? And say Geno's good. Now, remember, 31% strikeout rate, that's pretty high, but okay, higher than a 700 OPS, check the box, we're good. But what if I were to tell you that that's being brought up by 137 WRC plus 2022, 2023, 119, and then in 2025, he had a 41 WRC plus once he got traded to Seattle. And that's after he revived his career in Arizona, and he was having an absolute resurgence in 2025. And this is why I'm getting so passionate about this, is because I'm going to show you right here. With Arizona, look at, 260 average at home compared to 111 in Seattle. That's over 54 games versus 29. So it's not that big of a difference in sample, 120 versus 221 plate appearances. But now you look at this. The WRC plus with Arizona in 2025, before he got traded to Seattle, was 169 versus 41 once he got traded to Seattle. He had that's over 4 times as much. He had more than 4 times the WRC plus at home in Arizona than he did after he got traded to Seattle at home. Guys, I love Eugenio Suarez. He fits emotionally, like Jerry Dipoto said. But this guy is one of the worst fits for hitting in the marine layer in T-Mobile Park that we've ever had. You've got Ben Williamson, who will play his role so well. He will fill third base and fill in that spot in the lineup perfectly. I've done, a 30-minute video on that already this offseason. That's one of my favorite topics to discuss since I have been doing these videos. Starts last season. But and you also have Cole Emerson, he might be the next Julio. He's the next best thing. He might be like a Julio in the type prospect in the mold of Kyle Seager. That's what it's starting to sound like. But you can't, they might block him. Oh yeah, we'll sign a guy who he had a 41 WRC plus and 111 batting average in Seattle last year over the course of 29 games. But that is almost half of a year when you look at, at home. If you sign Eugenio Suarez and then if the Mariners sign Eugenio Suarez and he hits 111 with a 41 WRC plus in Seattle for 81 games next year, would anyone be surprised? Would anybody be disappointed? I know a lot of the people that are clamoring, to sign him would then be disappointed. They would turn around and probably blame it on Gino, which would not even be fair. Because the fact of the matter is, the Mariners should not be putting a guy who doesn't fit the ballpark in the ballpark to hit. That's the end of that rant. Because, I love Gino. He is an all-time clubhouse fit. He fits emotionally so well. He does not fit based on the ballpark. He was more than 4 times creating the weighted runs created more than 4 times the offense in Arizona that he was in Seattle last year. And really, when the sample size gets bigger, you expect it to normalize down to the average. But in this case, the sample gets bigger, and bigger sample in Arizona, he's way better. He's 69 points better here. He's 59 points worse, than average here. So anyway, that's the little rant about Eugenio Suarez. It would not be Gino's fault now. If Gino gets a deal from the Mariners, he returns, and then he has these bad numbers. Gino is barely to blame. It would be Jerry Dipoto. It would be his head on the chopping block. It would be Dan Wilson's head on the chopping block. It would even be the other players, Julio, Cal, Naylor. It would be their head on the chopping block for not the team underperforming. But what about, why not just give Ben Williamson a chance? Why not try something different? Why not try something that fits the team, that fits the ballpark from a baseball perspective, and let Eugenio Suarez go? Like I said at the beginning of the offseason, right? I predicted he would go to Miami. I think he's a great fit there. Boston seems like a perfect fit ballpark-wise. Fenway, hit all these home runs. They don't want to block Marcelo Mayer, another, a top prospect that they have. So it doesn't it tell you something too, that the rest of the MLB out there, the dominoes have pretty much fallen in free agency, and none of them value this guy like he was getting projected. He was getting projected like 3 years, $60 million by Fangraphs. He was getting projected as like a short-term, but $20 million a year player. And this is the guy who hit 49 homers last year. He clearly has something left in the tank. Why are MLB teams so scared of him? So unwilling to go out and get him? Maybe we should listen to them. Maybe this is one of the cases where the MLB actually does know more than us. I wish the best for Gino. It would be a poor baseball fit, and it would cause everybody problems if he returned to Seattle and was trying to hit in T-Mobile Park again. And not to toot my own horn, but I did say, but even when the trade was made, I said Naylor fits this ballpark perfectly. He's a contact hitter up the middle. I said Gino does not fit this ballpark well, because you put him out there, and he pulled the ball. You can use the same Fangraphs tool I did. His pull rate to right field is over 50%. He was doing everything to sell out. And you watch his swing in the playoffs, doing everything to sell out, to pull the ball over the left field wall, to pull homers. And he is, unfortunately, as a baseball player, he's a little bit one-dimensional. Now, he's one of my favorite human beings in the clubhouse last year. Best walk-up song of anybody. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. I love Gino Suarez. God bless him. God bless you, Eugenio Suarez. I hope you sign with the Marlins and be the bat that they need to get over the hump and kind of compete in an NL East that is not quite as intimidating as it was just a year or 2 years ago. The Braves, I think, are going to be good. The Mets have made some moves, but I'm not sure. They're kind of up in the air. Definitely going to compete in some ways. but I don't know if they're better than last year without Pete Alonso. I can't say that for sure. Luis Roberts going to have to make a big difference for them. Then you've got, the Braves are going to be pretty good. The Mets are going to be pretty good. The Phillies are still going to be good. Are they going to be better? I don't know. They're kind of the same. They kind of switch up their outfield a little bit. Depends on how some of those young guys do. And the Nationals, who knows what's going on? Clearly, they traded Mackenzie Gore away. They did get Paul Taboni, who's a very respected executive over there, who's probably going to try to rebuild things for the future, not for this year. Anyway, I digress. And the last thing I want to do today is show you guys, I'm all you who got to go to FanFest today. Shout out to you guys. But I want to show you guys because I'm going to be at Dugout Dialogue the whole time. I've got a question ready for every single person except for one, except for Mark McLemore, who's going to be there tomorrow. Unfortunately, heartbroken. Ben Williamson will not be at Dugout Dialogue tomorrow. It's unfortunate. Would have loved to ask him a question, but at some point, I'm going to get Ben Williamson on this channel. You can believe that. We're your number one. We're your one-stop shop for the Ben Williamson storylines on anybody's minds. So, Ben Williamson supporters, go ahead and let me know. I don't even know what to say, but yeah, that'll be the comment question. What would you ask Ben Williamson, knowing everything you know from this channel? Anyway, Dugout Dialogue questions. 11 a.m. is going to be Cade Anderson, which I was going to ask him as a lankier pitcher. How much of the Mariners prioritized weight addition for you coming to the organization? Gerangelo, Saincha, when you would start 2 days in a row with two different arms in college, what type of recovery would you do? How much does pitching one side take out of the tank for the other side the following day? And Colt Emerson, when you were drafted by Seattle, when the draft was here, what did they have you do to prepare you for your first professional game? And I put blank in the blank because I forget what exactly he hit. He hit like 400 in rookie ball or something. He went to I think it might have been the PCL, but he went. He was hitting the cover off the baseball, and he was way better than anybody thought right out of the gate. So whatever the Mariners did after they drafted him, to get him to just go play professionally and immediately be better than everybody thought. I'm curious about that. Also, he's been called the most mature 20-year-old in the organization since Kyle Seager. Where do you get your discipline from? Curious, is he a believer? What is where does this guy draw from in terms of that? Is it just credit to his parents? He has an opportunity to say whatever, but would like to get a little sense of, of the dude Colt Emerson, because he's definitely, while he's an amazing prospect, we don't know much about this dude, just as a human being. And then Johnny Farmello, how tough was it to sign with Seattle after being committed to Virginia? I know he wanted to go play college baseball. So how tough was that for him? I'm going to ask. 11:30 is Josh Naylor. I was going to ask him, were you a hockey goalie? And how did your hockey history relate to your unique stretching ability at first base, footwork in the batter's box, and acceleration on the base paths? Also, did Dan Wilson encourage you to steal more? Noon, Mike Cameron, you have one of my favorite baseball quotes I've ever heard, which if you watch my playoff coverage, you know this, which is the two most important things in playoff baseball are pitching and health of pitching. Where did you come up with it? That's one of my favorite questions of the day, that I'm really hoping to ask. Mark McLemore is the one person I haven't thought up a good question for. I've, looked at some of his baseball reference and been trying to think of what I'm going to ask him. I'll come up with something before the end of the night, before tomorrow, but just haven't quite yet. Maybe something about 2001. Maybe something about Rick Riz saying, Mark McLemore, that guy can play every position. That's a Riz quote, actually. So, W Riz in the chat. That was terrible. You could all flame me in the comments for that one. 12:30, Julio, how do you balance the maturity your superstardom demands with the Griffey-like excitement for playing the game like a kid? Just kind of understand, give him a chance to talk about himself and, in a good light. 1 o'clock is Kirby and Raleigh, going to be absolutely packed. I'm assuming for Julio, Cal, Naylor, right, they're going to be a million people asking these questions, and I might not even get to ask them, but got something ready regardless. Kirby, we saw you have a ton of success with your fastball, sinker, and slider in 2025, getting extremely comfortable at points. Would you expect to emphasize those pitches more this season? I need to fix, whatever. I'll fix it when I ask it, or I'll fix it in here. Do you do anything in particular for Cal? Do you do anything in particular in your recovery that allows you to stay so fresh as you squat 300 times a game and hit from both sides? I have 3. Okay, I got 4. How did you develop such an advanced swing and plate approach when, as the hitters go to hit, you're usually forced to go work with the pitchers? It's kind of this. It's almost similar to quarterbacks. Now everybody go work with blah blah blah, and then now quarterbacks go work with the receivers, right? That's actually not the best example I could have used, but you kind of get the idea. Is that when everybody's hitting and the pitchers are pitching, growing up and developing, catchers, okay, go with the pitchers. So how do you find the time to get better at hitting stuff? But again, you're not going to ramble when asking Cal a question. You took some incredibly long at-bats to start 2025, reminiscent of Edgar Martinez himself. What effect did he have on you as a hitter? And I'm thinking about that 112 pitch at-bat in San Francisco at the beginning of the season where I compared Cal to Edgar, and I said we might have the new Edgar on our hands. And I think that was when I started the Cal for AL MVP banner in the top right of the channel. Did Dan Wilson encourage you to steal more bases? Same as Naylor. 130, Dan Wilson. What made you encourage Cal and Naylor to steal more? What made you encourage these big dudes to steal more? I mean, and then also, what's a common misconception about the 2026 Seattle Mariners? Kind of give them an opportunity to reframe people's state of mind and kind of just be, give people, I mean, he can also say, I don't pay attention to nothing out there, or whatever. 2:00, Franklin Gutierrez, who is a Mariners special assignments coach for the Mariners. What players have you related to the most as a Mariners coach? But really just as a coach. Justin Hollander, what did you learn from during your time with the Angels that you were able to carry over to the Mariners organization, and what were the biggest differences? A little bit bad kind of guiding with the and what were the biggest difference. It's kind of like 2 questions in one, but also just kind of trying to get him talking, talking about that kind of experience and see if there's anything that comes to mind. If you can kind of strike a chord. What's a common misconception about the 2026 Seattle Mariners? Ask that to Justin as well. And then finally, 3:00, Emerson Hancock and Gabe Spire. You've been seen as a top prospect in college and had your fair share of ups and downs from the majors. What has that broad wealth of experience taught you about yourself? And then Gabe Spire, the contract killer. I don't want to say contract killer at the dugout dialogue with all the kids there, but I'm going to say you played a mercenary role of being used against specific guys. How much can you scout one guy? Kind of understand, and then you can say, oh yeah, it's blah blah blah, this, that, and the third, or it's more about me. Whatever it is. Anyway, excited. Gonna bring you guys a video after FanFest tomorrow. Maybe I'll record a few clips before and stuff. Maybe some YouTube shorts even. That being said, drop in the comments down below. What should I ask Mark McLemore? What should I ask? What would you have asked Ben Williamson? Whatever you want to. What's your opinion on the new Steelheads jerseys? What do you think of this whole Eugenio Suarez stuff? Can anybody make the case to me why we should still sign Eugenio Suarez after everything we've reviewed here today? Let me know down in the comments below. With that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Go M's.